Welcome to Intuition One. This class is officially titled Your Brain, How It's Built and How It Works. And this is a little welcome talk that covers our goals, our theme, and a bit of information. So let's start with our goals, okay? In this class, we have 4 goals. And the first goal is to understand how your brain is built and how consciousness works in our reality system. You can't operate your equipment if you don't know how it works. So that's our first goal, understand the brain. And you don't have to memorize anything. But once you hear some of the things that I have to share, you're going to go, oh, okay. So goal number 2 is to explore the fears that most people have around power, because we're moving toward power. My goal, and I tell people this right off the bat, my goal is to move you to your power. It's to get you to your power. So that's what these classes are about. And there are fears that everybody has, and they're the same 4 fears in everyone. So that's our second goal, explore those fears, or at least look at them in this class, and think about, what does power really mean? What do you use it for? So goal number 3 is to understand the basic frequencies and cycles of consciousness in this system, meaning this 3-dimensional system. It's different in every system, but this one, you're very familiar with it, and it's all about frequencies and cycles. So we will cover some of that. This class is heavy on information, and by the end of the class, your eyes are going to be going like this. So, oh my goodness. But I want you to be overflowing with information that you have needed in order to run your whole life. And it's just been so carefully skipped over. And that's tragic. So we're going to correct that. So understanding the basic frequencies and cycles of consciousness. That's goal number 3. Goal number 4 is to introduce the language of energy through its usual expression symbols. And it's just an introduction to the language of energy, but that is a key piece. The language of energy is where all of the secrets are hidden. So that's goal number 4, introduce you to the symbols that make up the language of energy. Okay, so we have a theme, and the theme for this class is, I am willing to contemplate my own presence and meaning. If you have never thought about you, it's time. You can't get to your power if you don't know thyself. And I want you to get to the point where you will say, because I said so, and feel it and know it and be able to act in that way without being apologetic, without feeling guilty, without feeling like you're overstepping some bounds, not to be rude or crude, but just to move into your power and with grace. Power is to be used gracefully. And we'll talk about that some more. So again, welcome to Intuition One. You are a body-mind system employing consciousness to both create and participate in a 3-dimensional reality system that offers an endless variety of experiences: visual, auditory experiences, feeling, smell, taste, touch, activity, and more. This is an incredibly rich reality system. They're not all like this, but this is an amazing place. And I hope you'll get an appreciation for how amazing this reality system is. It is unique. among reality systems. I've been to a few. Okay. So this is a three-dimensional system. You are a system within a system. You're a body-mind system employing consciousness to create. And all of that is meant to be enjoyed. Life is meant to be enjoyed. You're here to enjoy the process of living. And the goal is to move you into more expansive systems of creation and to be able to move back and forth in and out of those systems with this feeling of belonging, a feeling of fitting in, and of course, that gracefulness that we talked about just a moment ago. So, visual stuff, we will explore auditory stuff, feeling stuff. We can't do too much with smell and taste when we're online, but activity, there's all kinds of little exercises that we do in this class, and you will discover what you are good at. And that's part of the goal. Know thyself. You'll hear me say that a million times. Know thyself. So this class starts with and covers brain structure and function, how you're built, the most common frequencies, because your brain uses frequencies. I mean, when you see a picture of an elephant, you can't open the brain and find an elephant in there. What's actually in there? How is it that you see? How does that work? So we'll cover the most common frequencies and also the kinds and levels of perception that we have at our fingertips. So we have a range of perceptions that are right here, that are for us to enjoy and employ. What are those? How do you use those? We'll cover how we shift among the levels of consciousness to create a personal reality that contributes to the whole. We want to be aware of what we are creating because it makes the world better or worse, depending on what you're contributing. And don't for a moment think that what you're contributing is too small to matter, because that is not true. You matter, and everything you think and feel matters. And when you have big feelings or emotions or perceptions, that whole system out there is responding to you. You may not notice it unless you're really trained, but it is responding, it's listening. So let me repeat that. We're going to cover how we shift among the various levels of consciousness to create a personal reality that then in turn contributes to the mass reality we inhabit. We will talk about the four enemies. Those are the fears. Well, we'll get into that in just a moment, but the four enemies with which everybody struggles. Everybody runs into these four enemies at one point or another, and you need to know so you can be ready to handle it. After the four enemies, we're going to look at the kinds of intelligence that are recognized in Western civilization. There is, we all in school take these standard IQ tests, but they're very limited. They're made by people who value a particular kind of intelligence in this system. And there's a whole bunch of different kinds. There's at least 7 different types of intelligence that are known, recognized, valued, tested, used, and paid for in this system. So that's very, very interesting, those kinds of intelligence. And then we do some guided imagery. We look at the in-depth side of stress. You need to know about stress. That's a big deal. And you'll be introduced to symbolism and the language of energy. So depending on the culture that you were raised in, I hope you'll become aware of your own programming. It's programming that begins from the moment you're born and it continues through the present. And that programming is a little bit different for various cultures, but it's got a lot of commonalities. And one of the biggest commonalities is that programming is known by the ancients as the great Satan. All of life is good. However, the programming keeps you inside a very limited and narrow range of perceptions. And that overcoming that in order to get beyond that is really what we're talking about. And it's what the ancients said was the great struggle of life, getting past, confronting the great Satan, confronting your own programming. So we will talk about that a little bit. And I hope you'll become aware of how you were raised and what effect that had, not to judge it badly, but just to be able to work with it in a way that uses your own power wisely and well. Okay. So hopefully you'll begin to see the value of doing your own programming, which is something that almost everybody begins to tinker with right from intuition 1 forward. So I want you to see the shaping that you've done to yourself in order to fit in, and the worry that you carry that somebody will think badly of you, or that people are watching. You're watching. You're the one that matters. You have to get to the point where you can get beyond your old programming and begin to do your own programming, to add, not to erase or eliminate. You don't want to give up any of your assets. All of those programs are loaded with gifts. They're only problematic when you haven't taken the gift. So we will cover a great deal of that new programming in every class, and you'll hardly know that you're doing it until I point it out. And that's so that you'll see how to do it. So you can do it for yourself or for your children or your spouse or family members that are difficult to deal with, and so on. So I hope you'll begin to recognize the influence of your personal assumptions about how life should be. Who said so? Who said it should be that way? What kind of assumptions are you making? Okay. Recognizing the influence of your personal assumptions is critical, and it takes some really deep work to rebuild and reshape those assumptions into an expansive consciousness. You want that consciousness to allow you to stand in your power, trust yourself, and trust your love to know what's good, and then be courageous enough to create with joy and a little bit of sass. A little bit of sass, because I said so. Okay. So whether you are a total beginner or you've had a whole variety of intuitive or psychic experiences, whether you would like to improve your life in practical ways, or you're just merely curious about, is there anything to this? That kind of question. Whether you want to find and use your power here or ascend and leave this system behind altogether, this class will be a key experience. Many, many people come into class with a whole array of experiences that they've had: psychic experiences, visions, amazing dreams, insights, clairvoyant moments, all kinds of things. And there are others who haven't had a single experience and who then wake up and go, oh my God, I did that, and are stunned. It causes a little bit of uproar within the self, but it's really exciting uproar. Okay. You can as you move forward, you can open the door, or you can open many doors to understanding the basis of intuitive ability. It's not, if you don't understand the basis, the scientific basis, I'm big on science, and you'll get science all the way through these classes, because if you don't understand the science, it just stays in the area of magic. It just remains woo-woo or foo-foo or, fluff puff or whatever you want to call it. So we have to get to the point where we understand why something works the way it does. So it will show you a great deal about the nature of reality. Once you understand frequencies, how they work, the relationship to consciousness, wow. Wow, wow, wow. So the nature of reality then invites you to feel at home in the worlds that we move around in. And that's a goal. Be comfortable no matter what world you find yourself in. And there are many worlds right here in 3D. So questions for you to think about as we go through this class. Maybe we will come back to some of these. But number one, what is the point of your existence? What are you doing here? Why do you exist? Question number two, what do you know about your brain and how it works? Your brain is sometimes referred to as the 3-pound universe, and hardly anybody knows how it actually works. It's an amazing structure. Absolutely amazing. It's so interesting. So question number three, what kinds of psychic or other unusual experiences have you had? Were they deliberately induced or spontaneous and uncontrolled? And most of them are spontaneous and uncontrolled. Consciousness is this amazing, kind of like a wild horse that just pops up and does things when you least expect it, but when you most need it. Okay. So the whole question of how do I get a little bit of control? We learn some techniques so that you will have some control. And you can answer the question, what caused that experience to happen? It's always a need that you maybe were not recognizing or that you were obsessing about. So, question number four, how would your family react if you suddenly became ultra psychic? Families don't usually respond very well. Even my own family gives me a hard time from time to time. Although they started out really not, I'll say it this way, they really were uncomfortable. Over time, they began to see how useful and how helpful the things that I saw, the dreams that I had, the visions, the knowings, etc. And one by one, they began to ask, what do you see here? What do you think there? Let's look at such and such. And they began to ask me to do work, psychic work for them in little ways. And they still do. But they still have to tease a little bit. They still profess that they're normal and something is not normal about me, and I just laugh. So think about what your family would say or do, how they would react if you suddenly started spouting psychic experiences and wisdom, because you can't go back. It's a warning that I give to everybody that comes into the intuition classes. Once you start to know, you can't unknow. You can't go back. So there's only going forward, and you will find that there's some kind of excitement, some kind of drive, some kind of thrill that pulls you forward, even if you're scared to death, even if you feel like you don't have a handle on the changes that are happening. It'll be okay. Trust me. It'll be okay. Number 5, what would you do to change the world if you had the power to do so? Think about that. What would you do to change the world if you could? Because you can. And you're changing it every day. You start with your own life in every little decision you do or don't do. And that has an impact on the whole situation. And you'll see it ripple out as you get older. You know, there have been things that I started saying, oh gosh, probably 30 years ago. Those things, they're mostly in the health realm. I started writing books, things that I thought the culture needed to hear, people needed to know. In the beginning, it was like, oh my gosh, 3 people know, or 5 people paid attention, or whatever. But little by little, I began to see and hear everybody starting to talk about that. And that, you know, one example of that is detox. I started talking about people getting sick. They always ask me, what can I take? And I'm like, it's not what you should take. It's what you should get out of the body. It's what you should pull out of you, not what you should put in. And now today, you know, 25, 30 years later, everybody's talking about detox because it is important. So I started talking about frequencies and plasma probably 20 years ago. And now lots of people are talking about frequency and plasma. At the time I started, nobody was saying anything about that. So it takes a while, but by gosh, stuff changes. You will see the results of your own actions. Just look in your family. Look at how your family has changed in response to some of the things you have said and done. Okay? So I've been teaching people to unfold their consciousness and learn to use their intuition for over 40 years now. I think it's been like 44 years. And it still excites me to watch this process. Intuition is a form of intelligence, and it is recognized by academia. They don't promote that too much, but it is recognized. Everyone has different strengths and different gifts. Some people are strongest with clairvoyance, others are healers, others can walk the world of dreams, they're dream walkers. Others use their gifts to invent machinery or create great teams of people that work together. They're leaders. Other people can foster peace or whatever. You will discover your gifts. And I love that. Personally, that is what keeps me teaching, is watching that unfolding and the amazing excitement that people come to expect in their own life with their own consciousness. So the goal is not to develop consciousness just for the sake of showing off your gifts. It is to apply those gifts, apply them to your work, to your relationships, and the world around you. It makes the world a better and more interesting place for you and for everybody. So if you start showing off with your psychic abilities, instead of just trying to be helpful, you're going to discover you're stuck at one of the stages of development. And that's for much later, Intuition 7. But just be aware that there are recognizable stages of development. And I've been through all of them. So I've recognized them. There's a few key points to keep in mind. Number one, for almost everything, for almost everyone, the very first thing you're going to run into once you start to expand your consciousness is your body. Your body is your equipment for navigating the consciousness of our world. And you can't maintain expansive states of consciousness without superior health. And so I'm going to tell you right up front, you're going to run into your body and you're going to discover that you actually have the motivation to do something different, to make yourself healthier. And that's wonderful for you and for everybody. Number two, I would suggest that you get yourself a 3-ring binder or a spiral notebook and use it to keep a record of your work. Every class requires that we do some things where we write stuff down. And so just keep adding, 3-hole punch papers to your 3-ring binder. And when you get to the end of these classes, you will look back and go, oh, wow, have I changed? Oh my gosh, look what I can do now. It is absolutely exciting. So you have to keep a record and just label that notebook, my consciousness or the development of my consciousness or something that interests you. The act of writing things down, very often I tell people, don't just listen, write. Take a few notes. Why? People are like, I can just replay the video. No, write things down because everything that you know needs to be anchored by action. And writing is action. It anchors that knowledge in the body. It's a body-mind system. Okay? So writing things down anchors your successes in consciousness, prevents confusion, and allows you to continuously improve your abilities. When you give yourself directions to see something or know something or go look at something, and because you want to see XYZ, you'll get into this altered state, you see what you see, and then what you come back and do, if you haven't written it down, is say, why did I want to see that? Sometimes what you see changes what you think you are doing. And there's a reason for that. So you always write down the directions you give yourself as you go to look at some particular event or future date or condition or whatever. Okay. Number 3, you spend almost 1/3 of your life sleeping. And one of the fastest ways to expand consciousness is to teach yourself to remember your dreams and what you are doing with your consciousness every night. Oh my gosh. Right from the start, I'm going to tell you, begin tracking your dreams. Sit on the edge of the bed every night, give yourself instructions to remember your dreams. And don't say, I will remember, say, I remember my dreams in every detail. Okay? And then put a pen, your notebook or spiral dream notebook, small flashlight, or one of those little, what do they call them? Book lights, bed book lights beside the bed. And when you have a dream, wake yourself up enough to at least write a few notes that will trigger the memory of the whole dream in the morning. So try not to use your cell phone or tablet to record something in the middle of the night because it wakes you up too much. The talking actually wakes you. You can do it. Some people train themselves. But try both methods. The writing, just jot it down, the date, the time, and a few key words that will trigger the memory of the whole dream. Okay? Use a small handheld digital recorder if you want to record rather than your cell phone, because the cell phone is so bright. and that light wakes you up. Okay. The last thing, and I will remind you of this throughout this class, we have a rule, and that rule is, it's a rule that my mother passed on to me in our family many years ago. And that rule is take care of yourself first. First, if you aren't taking care of yourself, you won't be able to help anyone else, and you'll just be another burden in their life. Take care of yourself, and take care of yourself first. And then maybe think about what you might do for others. If you are not taking care of yourself, ask yourself why. And I'll tell you something, about 90% of the people who don't take care of themselves don't have permission to do so. And they want somebody to care for them. They think if they are taking care of themselves and they're totally self-sufficient and, they don't need anybody, that nobody will care. That is not true. The more you take care of yourself first, the more your own power develops and expands. And that is very attractive to people. You will learn how to interact with people in a way that's healthy and balanced, and that doesn't get sucked in to all kinds of stuff. And you won't let them, what do they call that? Vampirize you. You won't be subject to energy vampires that come and take your time and take your energy and leave. And they're all fine. And you're like, oh, I didn't get anything done today that I needed to get done. And you're exhausted and fatigued. They took all your energy. You cannot let that happen. First, you take care of yourself. Okay? And that doesn't mean you have to be rude. You just have to be very matter of fact and say, I would love to talk with you, but it's time for me. I promised I would, whatever it is, and then go do it. So take care of yourself first. So a couple things, technical kind of details here. This course consists of documents and handouts, and you should download and read through these as we go through each class. Some of those handouts will accompany the lectures, and some are just to add to your store of information. Okay? There are 5 lectures in Intuition 1, and those 5 lectures are long and somewhat intense. So Intuition 1, like I said, is information heavy, while the later classes are experience heavy. Okay, first you figure out how your stuff works, and then you start using it. Okay, these lectures that we do are full of information about how you as a body-mind system are designed to work so that you can work with your equipment rather than struggle against it. The first lecture, criteria for recognizing a form of intelligence. It sounds so formal and so boring, and it's not. It is absolutely fascinating, and you're going to see yourself and your family members all over in that first lecture. It focuses on the forms of intelligence that are recognized and accepted in Western culture. And be aware that intuition is regarded as a form of intelligence. I think I mentioned this already, by cognitive scientists. It is a recognized form of intelligence. Why aren't they teaching it? I don't know. I think there's reasons, I'm sure. None of them good. So don't let anybody poo-poo what you're doing. This is a very intense and somewhat high-powered class in human development. And it is, like I said, something that you cannot retreat from once you start. The second lecture is the 4 enemies of consciousness. Our third lecture is how the brain is built and how it functions. The fourth lecture is frequencies of perception. And the fifth focuses on attention, emotions, and stress. So we then have a visual, auditory, kinesthetic experience in which you close your eyes and follow along, and then thoughtfully assess what happened based on my questions and comments after we do the exercise. And we also have a guided imagery exercise requiring written notes in response to questions. And we will cover or start your symbol library. This is your introduction to understanding the language of energy. And it's a 19-page document. And we will start with the first 3 pages. We fill in 3 pages every class. And you're done, finished by the time you get to Intuition 7. So you've got an entire library of symbols and what they mean. And we use those in so many things. So that's the language of energy. Let's see. And let me just add here. It is the language of energy, and your symbol library is something that I have created, but you are welcome to add your own dreams, visions, and symbols and what they mean to you right on top of mine. Okay? This is a everybody's got, like if you, the first time I ran into this was when I had students from Russia. And this was back in the days when I used to have classes here at the farm. And we had some symbols, and they were like, they had symbols I had never heard of. And I thought, oh, that's another language, another culture. So there will be things in your culture that are specific and unique to your culture. And you'll have to figure out, what does that symbolize? Okay, it's very good practice for you. And then we have a reading list, and I suggest that you read at least a few books from the list. I recommend maybe 1 book a month, but if you don't have time, that's not a requirement. People often ask me, how did you learn what you learned? Well, I learned it mostly from my own experience and a very scientific approach to what I was trying to understand, because I was dealing with Kundalini that was out of control. And I had no background, no metaphysical understanding, and there were no books. So I came across books, and when I came across one that was really helpful, I put it on my reading list. So most of the books on that list are older books, but they pack a wallop. They're like dynamite for the consciousness. So, read if you can. Okay. And with that, let me just say thank you. Thank you for taking this class. And thank you especially for becoming one of the people who is moving into their power, stepping into the process of opening consciousness, because that makes the world a better place. So thank you. And we'll see you in the next lecture. Okay?